So we're going to be making our cityscape, just like you can see in the background on the cover of the book here in Tar Beach. We're going to be using rectangle shapes to overlap each other to create our cityscape. Our paper is turned the tall, skinny way. Okay? Inside your scrap bowl, you're going to find some long strips of paper. And I'm going to pick out some. If you look up at the big screen, you'll see that some of the scraps are longer and some are shorter. So what I want to do is pick some of the longer ones to be in my background. So these are going to be in the back. So when you're overlapping, we're putting down this hand. We're putting down the background first. What's going to be behind? Okay, so now I have the long pieces. I've got some short pieces over here, and I've got lots of different colors. But I'm going to go ahead and put the long pieces on first. I don't really want my buildings to be the same size because that's not very exciting. We want to have some variety. So I'm going to make this one a little bit shorter. It's going to be taller than the green one. Whoops. It's going to be taller than the green one, but it's going to be shorter than the red one. How about that? Does that make sense? So there's 3 different lengths, okay? I'm going to go ahead and glue those down. So I'm going to twist the top of the glue bottle so that the long cap separates from the short round lid, and it should breathe. So we're going to use white glue and not glue stick. So just this one that looks like this right here. I'm going to put some baby dots. And when you make baby dots, I should hear a little thunk, thunk, thunk on the table like this. That tells me that your dots are not big fat dots, that they're little dot smudges. And you only really need a few, maybe 6 or 8 on each building. Okay? I'm going to turn them over. Line them up with the bottom here. That's right. If you use big fat dots, then it'll squeeze out from the edges, and that's just not good craftsmanship. That makes sloppy glue marks on your paper. All right. Now, let me ask you a question. Are these overlapped? No, they're not covering over. Have we overlapped yet? No. 1, 2, 3 on the paper, and now we get to overlap. Oh, by the way, there's a famous building in our city. What's it called? The Batman building. So I'm going to put some Batman ears on my orange building here. And I'm going to do that by cutting a triangle. And I'm going to cut the corner off of this side. Watch. Check it out. Batman. Do you have to make the Batman building? No, of course not. If you want to, that's one way to do it. Okay, I'm going to put a little baby dot there. And I'm going to put a little baby dot there. And now I have a Batman building. Okay, now I'm ready for overlapping. Let's look at these short buildings. Oh, that's a really nice short one. That one is the same height as my green one. What am I going to have to do to that one? I'm going to have to cut it. I could use this one too, but probably 2 will be enough. Odd numbers are usually nice. They balance nicely, especially when you're overlapping. I think I'm going to give this one a fancy top. And I'm going to cut the corners off like this and make it like our little banking building there downtown. I call it the R2D2 building because it kind of looks like a robot. Yeah, I like it. I'm going to put some baby dots, not lots of glue. Baby dots, not lots. Heard the little tap, tap, tap there. And I'm going to overlap. Now look at that. Do you see how I put the building over the space? Now it's covering up these buildings, and it looks like the black building is in front, and the green and red buildings are behind. That's right. Okay, I think I need a different kind of roof. This might be a good Tar Beach building. I'm going to put a dot, 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 dot. Baby dots, not lots. I'm lining it up with the very bottom edge of my paper here. Giving it a little rub.
What about these zigzag pieces?
What about the zigzag pieces? Those are pieces that we'll use later. The pieces that have been cut in your scrap bowl. Yeah, we'll use those later. Once the glue has dried on your city collage, you're going to be adding some oil pastel. Now, in the story Tar Beach, Cassie Louise Lightfoot was flying over the city at night. So we're going to create our cityscape in the evening or night. So think about what kind of things would you see in the sky at night? For sure you would see the moon. Some nights you see the moon in all different shapes, maybe a crescent. On some nights you would see stars if it wasn't too cloudy. You might see clouds in the sky. So what I'm going to do up here is I'm going to go ahead and put my moon in. And I'm going to make a crescent moon. That's a quarter moon. So I'm going to go ahead and make a quarter moon. Like the letter C, and then I'm going to fatten up my C. Oil pastels are great. They're a little bit, they're oily, they're greasy, and they will get on your hands. So you want to try to hold the oil pastels on the paper if there's paper on them. So I'm going to make a yellow moon. You could also make a white moon if you wanted to, or you could use both. Because unlike crayons, these will go right over top of each other and both colors can show through. I think I'll go ahead and add some stars. This time I'm going to put the white stars in first. I might make teeny tiny stars like this by holding my oil pastel and twisting it. It's going to be a really clear night with no clouds at all. So I made big stars that kind of feel like they're closer, and these little stars that might feel like they're close up. Sometimes I get a little crumble. I can just tap my paper like that. If they look too much like snowflakes, you can go ahead and use the yellow instead, or you can just go over them with yellow and add a little bit of yellow and white. It kind of gives them a little bit of a shine. They should be smaller than your thumb though. When you hold your thumb up to them, you should be able to cover your stars with your thumbprint. If they're bigger than that, like the size of your palm, then they're way too big for our picture. All right, now our our sky is finished. If you have time and you would like to, you could add some details into the city itself. I'm going to add some window panes in here. I like to use the color that matches the building if I can find it. Sometimes I even like to make a little door. I can use different numbers of lines in my windows to show that I have large windows or small windows. These are really tall windows. Maybe I had a building where I forgot to draw windows, in which case I wanted to add a couple. I certainly could add a few windows by drawing rectangles with my oil pastel. I add a couple of windows over here, and I add a couple of windows over here, just a long window. A couple of smaller ones underneath. I think that'll do it. Even though I didn't add details to this building, I think that's okay because remember we used our overlapping. So this building is behind. It would be further away and harder to see the details in the windows. Remember the self-portrait that we drew before we built our cityscapes? Well, we're going to get it back out today. What we need to do with our self-portrait is we're going to cut it out so that we can make it fly over our cityscape, just like Cassie Louise Lightfoot, into our beach. Cutting out your self-portrait can be a little tricky. We want to make sure that we cut just a little bit outside the black line. So I want to make sure and keep my scissors just outside the black line and cut very carefully so that I don't accidentally cut off an arm or a leg. Be sure to cut carefully around your portrait so that you don't lose any of your arms or legs. Notice how I hold my scissors still and move the paper to make it easier to get around objects. Throw your scraps away when you're finished. Now I have my cityscape finished and I have my self-portrait all complete and cut out. So let's see how she's going to fit on here. Oh, she's flying right over the city. Now, it's okay if she overlaps a little bit, if your self-portrait overlaps some of the buildings a little bit. You have to decide what's most important. Remember, we used overlapping, where you take one thing and cover it over with the other to show distance or space in front and behind. Overlapping, overlapping in front and behind. So these are in front, these are behind. If my self-portrait covers up some of the behind buildings, that's okay. She might even cover up some of the moon and the stars, but that would look realistic since the moon and the stars are very far away. So here we go. I'm going to cover up a little bit of the Batman building. I'm going to try and arrange her so that I can see a little bit of the ears of the Batman building so you can tell what it is. Move her up a little higher. Don't want to cover up too much of my moon. Let's see here. Oh, that's about right. She definitely looks like she's flying because her feet are not down here on the ground where the buildings are. Once I figured out where she's going to be, and she's not hanging off the paper anywhere, we don't want her to be dangling off the paper, I'm ready to open my glue. First, I'm going to make sure there is no sticky glue at the top. Then I'm going to hold the round lid of the glue and twist the top open all the way as far as it can go. Whoop. It should breathe. Oh, good, it does. Look how far down it is resting. Now I have to turn it upside down and give it a little shake, and a shake, and a shake. It needs a few seconds to get into position. I'm going to turn her over. I'm going to put 2 dots in her head, 2 dots on her shoulder, 2 dots on her hips, a dot on each foot, and a dot on each hand. Not a ton of glue, just a few little dots ought to hold her in place just fine. All right, let's find that just right spot. And because we're using white glue, it's okay if I have to move her around a little bit. Oh, that looks good. Perfect. I'm going to hold her down and count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There you go. Now, when Cassie was in the story, she got to fly over anything she wanted, and something magical happened to that thing. She owned it.